Welcome to the 48th edition of Democracy at the Crossroads. This is a platform where we discuss threats to Indian democracy. We mince no words in showing the mirror to the powerful with only one objective: to save our democracy. 2 weeks ago, we discussed the February 15 Supreme Court judgment on the electoral bond that had nailed the lies of the Modi government at the center. This week, we'll discuss how this government, afraid of being exposed about its shady deals with business houses, it has now forced the hands of the State Bank of India to come to its rescue by telling lies, even as those lies expose the leading public sector bank to utter ridicule. Remember, the Supreme Court of India, in its February 15 judgment, had asked the State Bank of India to submit to it the list of electoral bonds, the names of donors, recipients, and the denominations, all those purchased in the last 6 years. That is, since the inception of electoral bond scheme in January 2018. The Supreme Court had set a deadline, March 6. It means it gave the lead bank a full 3 weeks. It was a simple task, especially in this digital age. It was all the more simple as the government had ensured that all electoral bonds were issued only by one bank, the State Bank of India, a public sector bank. The government had a design. After all, this government is manned by cunning men. In fact, men malicious in their cunningness. They sold the importance of secrecy of the electoral bond, saying this: if the corporate houses want to donate money to one political party, and if other political parties opposed to the recipient party get to know about it, then these opposing parties will resort to vindictiveness, reprisals, and calumny. So what did the government sell to the world? It said the corporate houses needed to be shielded from publicity. They want to give donations secretly. So, there must be anonymity about their political donations. But as we know, this government is clever. In the electoral bond scheme that it clandestinely moved, remember, it clandestinely moved as a footnote of the 1917 budget, because it did not want to tell the world about it. It made a provision that only the State Bank of India would be authorized to transact the electoral bonds. It was a smart move. The top management of the SBI is appointed by the government. The SBI is under the complete administrative control of the Government of India. So, this clever government ensured that while no opposition political party will get a whip of which party got how much money from which business house, it is the ruling party which will have the full access to the entire information about the entire transactions of the electoral bond. That placed the ruling BJP in an enviable position, in a position to hand out rewards and punishments as the case may be. The ruling clique will know which corporate houses are filling its coffers and to what extent, and reward them accordingly with contracts, licenses, tax waivers and the like. The same ruling cabal will also get to know which business houses donated to the opposition parties and how much. If any business house showed too much affection for an opposition party, the extent of affection which is beyond the comfort zone of the ruling BJP, then income tax raids, ED interrogations would follow to teach them and other similarly inclined businessmen an open lesson. If you quote an opposition party, you will do so at your own risk. This policy of reward and punishment has worked well in the last 6 years. The ruling dispensation had thought that they had stitched together, devised a foolproof mechanism to pursue the policy of enticement and vendetta, enticing those who showed complete loyalty to the saffron establishment and striking against those who dared to quote the opposition parties. This was a classic construct for crony capitalism, and this crony capitalism was running very well. The ruling BJP had never imagined a Supreme Court of India which had demonstrated for years its servility to the executive as the touchstone of its existence. The same Supreme Court of India would suddenly perk up and show that it is not dead yet, that it has enough life left to take on the lies of the executive and nail it. That is what the Supreme Court did in its February 15 judgment. But then the SC did not just annul the electoral bond scheme as unconstitutional. It ordered the SBI to submit the names of donors and donees so that the extent of mala fide, the extent of quid pro quo nexus between the business houses and the ruling party can be exposed. And that has rattled the Modi government. All the big hype that the Narendra Modi government has created about its honesty and integrity would melt in thin air if the Supreme Court order is carried out to its hilt. This one expose will show to the world that the ruling BJP is a party of luteras and liars in the cloak of sense. That explains why the ruling BJP has now mobilized the State Bank of India to come to its rescue. Even as that meant telling lies, showing up the leadership team of the biggest public sector bank as a bunch of bumbling, floundering amateurs incapable of handling a simple task. The Supreme Court had given, mind you, SBI 3 weeks to submit the list of electoral bond transactions. Just 2 days before the deadline was to end, the SBI has moved the apex court seeking extension of deadline till June 30. Just see the new deadline the SBI has sought, June 30, by when Lok Sabha elections would be over. After that, the expectation is that a sweeping victory for Modi's BJP in the wake of Ram Mandir would drown all the denunciations that would follow when the details of electoral bonds come out in the open. Maybe after a sweeping victory, Modi's BJP would be getting more aggressive. It would say, people's verdict has been won. Who cares for the court's verdict? And for all you know, the Supreme Court itself may back down and choose not to confront a swaggering executive post-election victory. So, the SBI has been front-footed to do the rescue act, to keep the dirt hidden under the carpet till the Lok Sabha elections are over. We all had known about the caged CBI, which did the bidding of the political masters without battling an eyelid. No one had ever imagined that, like the CBI, the SBI will be one day forced by an utterly mendacious government to tell black lies so as to ensure that the ruling establishment is not publicly exposed about its shady deals with the business magnates. If CBI bosses could be dismayingly spineless, how can you expect SBI bosses to stand erect before a rampaging political master? It's now an acid test for the Supreme Court of India. If it allows the caged CBI's extension plea on the stated ground that it needs 18 weeks to put together the data on electoral bond, then that would amount to legitimizing a lame excuse that India is not a technology powerhouse, that it's only taking baby steps in a technological kindergarten. The truth is, India is a technological hub. The IT experts here in our country have said this openly, that with all our technological prowess, all the information about electoral bonds can be collated in just 3 days, if not 3 hours. It doesn't at all need 3 weeks granted by the Supreme Court of India. The appeal for a 18 weeks deadline extension by the SBI is a desperate attempt by it to save its political masters from public humiliation. The caged SBI must not be allowed to succeed in its and its puppeteers' evil design. The Supreme Court of India, by its electoral bond judgment, has given great hope to those who savor India's democracy and want to protect it at all costs. The apex court must not dilute the impact of that judgment by allowing the shielding of the corrupt politicians in charge of our country today. We sincerely hope and pray that the apex court sees through the game and remain steadfast and allow the truth to see the light of the day. Thank you.